Well, hello, everybody. We are back for another Pemberton Legacy interview. I am your host, Elmira Loftin, and we are here with another special guest. And I will have her introduce herself. What is your name so the people know exactly who you are?
Marion, Pemberton, Loftin, the daughter of James and Elmira Pemberton.
Okay, sounds good, sounds good. And you all know this is actually my mom too. Tell me something. You just stated who you are the daughter of. Tell me something about your upbringing. Like, what do you remember from your childhood?
Well, quite a few things.
Just
Me
something.
being the only girl, there were several things. I guess I was. Everybody would think I would be spoiled. I don't consider myself to be spoiled. I learned a lot of things from my dad because my dad only had one hand, and he would teach us things. He would teach me things to do with my mom. He would tell us what to do, and we would carry them out because he couldn't use the tools and things like that. He would tell us what tool to use, and like he was maybe changing a tire.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't change the tire with one hand, so he had taught me how to, jack the car up and use the crowbar to squeal off the lug wrenches, and then how to get it on. And I did a lot of that. He taught me how to split wood, and that was because he couldn't split wood, and we brought wood into the house, and he could almost do anything, and he knew had knowledge of almost anything. So the things that he couldn't do with me, I remember him telling me what to do, and I followed those instructions in order to get things done because he still was a handyman as far as I'm concerned around the house because
Mm-hmm.
he could still tell us what to do. We didn't have to go out and have somebody come in just because he didn't have a hand because he had an accident and his hand was cut off. And I always known him as having one hand because that was the way it was when I was born. He only had one.
Right. Well, because you just described a lot of the stuff that you learned, like changing a flat tire and different things like that. Where did your father get his handyman knowledge? Was it innate or did he get it from somewhere? Do you know?
I guess back in that day, him being the oldest of the Pembertons, and
Mm-hmm.
his father passed, so he had to learn a lot of things. And almost all his brothers knew how to do a lot of things, and growing up. And I just figured that that was a common thing. The families taught their children how to do things because he could farm, he could drive a tractor, he could drive a truck. He worked on a farm. I
Mm-hmm.
don't ever remember him cutting grass, but he knew how to do it.
Right, right.
He always had a garden, and he would show us how to do the garden. And he would help in the garden. And I remember him. He used to wear a hook on his hand. It was a leather, almost looked like the thing that the pirates had with a hook on the end. That was what he used on his right hand because he had his left hand and four fingers. But he used that hook to do a lot of things. And
Hmm.
I've seen him walk behind a mule, ride the drive tractor and all that type of stuff. Walk behind a horse to plow. So he did all of those things. But growing up back then, they had to do a lot of things for themselves and learn how to do a lot of things for themselves. So I think that's where he got his handyman. And then being a handy person, his with his father dying and him being the oldest male sibling, he had to learn a lot of things and help grandma how to do with the rest of the children.
Yeah, I heard about that. So he was basically, if you think about it, he was kind of like their father in a way, with the
Yeah, and
things
the
he
youngest
had to
one
do
thought
help
of him
raise
that way.
them.
The youngest one thought of him that way. That was Uncle William. He called my mama and my daddy mama and daddy because our grandfather died when he was an infant.
Right,
That was
right.
the only male, you know, figure that he really knew other than his sibling, his other
Hmm.
sibling, you know. So he called my mama and dad his mom and dad.
Right. That's interesting. And do you know what the age difference is between them? Between William, you said it was William and your dad?
I don't remember. Dad was born in 1909, and I think Uncle William must was 1924.
Oh, so
I
that's
think,
about 15 years. So yeah,
yeah. Of
that's
course,
a
Aunt Evelyn was older than Daddy, so her being the only daughter. But I think she had left home already,
hmm.
Grandpa, because her oldest son was probably the same age as Uncle William. 'Cause Grandma and her was pregnant at the same time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. So she had moved and she had gotten married and moved when my grandfather died.
Right. That's interesting. I guess you did, as you mentioned, you did have to be handy. Everybody did, because would won't nobody want a Uber?
Nope.
No, no, nobody coming to help you out and do all this stuff. No housekeeper, or it's just a different time period. So you had to. What do you recall what y'all had on because you said y'all had a farm. Did you pretty much have everything in terms of food or?
Pretty much, Daddy. Well, on this property that we live on now, um, I remember him having pigs. Mama used to raise chickens. We used to plant a garden every year, and we had black eyed peas, butter beans, green beans, sweet potatoes, white potatoes, onions, watermelon. I don't know if we planted any, and Mama always planted what we call salad, but now people call it smooth kale. We
Oh,
planted that out in the field for the fall, and then you had those creases that grew up voluntarily. We call it crease salad, watercress now.
right, right.
We used to call them crease salad. We used to eat those, and we grew tomatoes. Basically had everything. And then she canned everything. We had corn, she canned corn, green beans, black eyed peas, butter beans, and we had to shell those butter beans and the black eyed peas, and we also snapped the green beans. That was a part of our job to go and help gather the crop also.
I remember that too. I remember the cans, well, like the watermelon pickles and stuff
Yeah,
like
we had cucumbers.
that.
I forgot about cucumbers. And one year we had some. Well, I guess Lawrence had an orchard over here, so we had apples and peaches and those cherries that we used to eat. He
Who
threw
had an orchard?
Lawrence did. That was a part of his school project.
Oh, so that's how they got
Yeah.
see, this is the purpose of the interview. I just thought the trees were there.
Oh, that was a part of his what they used to call it back then.
Botany
Vocational
or something? Well,
vocational
not.
agriculture, and
Oh, yes, horticulture.
his
Okay.
teacher
Yeah.
was Mr. Thornton, and he came up here and helped him plant the apples and the peaches and the cherries and those that grape harbor we had back there behind the clothesline. And he also had some strawberries. The strawberries was on the side of the field down the
Hmm.
driveway. But those cherries, I think all of that came from his orchard. We had peaches for maybe 2 or 3 years. They didn't do well, but the cherries and the apples did pretty good.
And when did he do that project? When did he start that project?
He must have been about the 11th grade at least before he went into the Navy, maybe 10th, 11th grade.
So them, yeah, those trees survived because we had those in the 80s.
Yeah, yeah.
Those they were around for a while. I didn't know that was a project. I thought y'all, grandma and grandpa had just planted them. I didn't know.
Oh, that was a part of his project, his school project. And
Mm.
then Aunt Eslin had peanuts because raised up her husband grew peanuts down in Dinwiddie. So one year we
Mm.
tried peanuts. Lawrence tried peanuts out here. They did okay, but you know, but those grew in the ground. But they were good. We used to roast those, harvest those, and put them in the oven. They were good.
So would you say, based on what you're stating, would you say the ground, because it seems like a lot of stuff grew on that ground, that the land is fertile?
This land is real fertile, and Grandma La's land was too. I mean, she had apple trees over there, and pear trees, and walnut trees, and she had plum trees down near the end of the driveway. I don't know if y'all had any of those plums.
Mm-mm. No, we
There
didn't have.
was a plum tree up near the what they call the turkey house. You remember the turkey house over there?
Mm, I don't know what that is.
Well, because I definitely grew turkeys. She had turkeys. They had turkeys that they used to sell. You know, up near the turkey house, there was a plum tree up there. And we used to go up there and get plums in the fall. And then between grandma house and this house, I mean, the old house, it was a persimmon tree. Remember the
Mm.
persimmon? Walking over there to her house, and there was a persimmon tree. But the land was real fertile because I mean, back then that was their food. And they said grandma had a cow. I don't know if I don't remember a cow. I remember Aunt Delphi having a cow because she
Right.
milked the cow. She taught us how to milk the cow. And I guess it was part of grandma's too because Aunt Delphi used to live with grandma for a while when we was growing up.
Interesting. Interesting. And so, just so we have this on record, all of this is in what area? What area are we talking about?
We're in New Kent, the Tonsils area of New Kent County.
Okay. And based on all of that too, how was your schooling, growing up in New Kent? Because of course we know how the family life was, and learning different things from your mom and your dad and aunts and uncles and
Well, I think school
school.
was pretty interesting. I was one of the first to go. I didn't go to the one room school that was out here. Barbara was the last one to go out there. And when I started school, it was the new portion of George Watkins High School,
Mm-hmm.
elementary, because they bought all this one room school into Watkins, into one location. That was back in 1956. And we had basically the same teachers that my brothers had all through high school. And most of those teachers stayed with us, stayed in the county once they got here. My first grade teacher was Miss Coleman, and I think we all had Miss Coleman. The whole family had Miss Coleman, and she lived in the neighborhood. I think I would say that she didn't live too far from here. In fact, her relatives did. And then our pastor at the church was one of my teachers, Reverend Boykin. He was my history teacher in seventh grade, I think, maybe eighth grade. But I consider my teachers and the education that we had here in the county was remarkable for those
Mm-hmm.
days because the teachers cared about you and they look after you and they wanted you to strive and the teachers wanted you to do better than they did. So they poured into us and it wasn't that anything else for us to do like the kids have now, all these other gadgets and things to do. So when you came home from school, it was homework, chores, and dinner and bed, you know. So you didn't have to worry about too much TV because we didn't have a TV until 1963. And Lawrence went to the Navy.
Right.
So we wanted to look at TV. I definitely had a TV, but you would have to go over to her house or up on, we used to call up on the corner. And she lived up on the corner and watch TV. And sometimes we'd go up there on Sunday evenings and walk back to go see the Ed Sullivan show or Bonanza or something like that. But schooling for us, and I felt that it was really good when I went off to college for what I had been taught, and even that when they integrated the school. And I was a part of the first class to go to full integration in
Right.
1969. Barbara was the last class at Watkins. So I was the first, we were part of that class. And those students, they couldn't believe the education that we had got. I mean, they at New Kent High School, they thought our teachers were just too tough on us. We had learned a lot. And then when we went to college, when I went to college, Hilda and I was saying like, oh my God, these kids didn't learn what we did in little old New Kent. So, what's going on? And that's why I feel that our teachers that we had gotten here in the county, they just poured into us because they wanted us to do better and go out and make great accomplishments. I mean, even your first grade teacher, even your
Hmm.
first grade. And from there on, it was a community. And if you didn't do your work, those teachers knew your parents.
Yeah,
And
they was gonna come find them.
they were gonna come by your house, or they were gonna give your mama a phone call or something. Something, you won't gonna be there messing up, especially with my family, because and I may have told y'all my math teacher in high school. She just told me, I know you can do it. Your brothers did it. I know you can do it. You
Well,
can do
I'm not my brother, so don't be telling me what I can do.
this lady. And geometry, she used to call me every day to go to the board to explain something.
Oh wow.
Every day went to the board to explain. I said, other students in the class. And
Why you
Hilton and I
calling
used to
on
get
me?
together and do our homework. But she used to tell us because Robert was before us and before me, and Kenneth was before me, and Lance and Johnny and Jimmy. And she had all of them. And she was still there.
Mm.
She left in 1969 when they started integration. That's when she left. So she had been there through all of it. And that's the year that she left, teaching. I don't know if she retired. I guess she retired, but she would tell me all the time, your brother did so and so. I know you can do it. Wow. But I felt that New Kent really put out some excellent students in our community. Just in this community, if you think about where these young men and young women has gone, it's it's remarkable if you look back and see. I mean, even in Aunt Josephine and Aunt Anna in
Mm-hmm.
their day and time, the accomplishments that they made.
Right.
Most of them went in the military, but they also, when they came out, they had nice jobs and made, they had good work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
So they took care of their families and they did remarkable things. Other things that people wouldn't think people would do. Especially I just being working for the State Department and Aunt Anna working at the Pentagon from Newgate County, and Uncle Logan in engraving.
Now, how did you mentioned all three of them right there. How did they land those positions? Was it through networking? Was it, do you know at all how they
I
got
don't know
those
how they
positions?
landed those positions, but one I don't know. I really don't know which one went to DC. I really don't know who went to D.C. first.
Mm-hmm.
Went to Washington first, but a lot of them from New Kent went to Washington and they got government jobs. Because
Ah.
that's where Al Josephine wanted me to go. I mean, you could go in and take civil service. They used to call it civil service positions. And, once you get in there, you might as well say, you have a job if you do what you're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
You have a lifetime, more than a job. You have a career. You'll have a career,
Right.
you know. And I don't know who went to DC first. And, probably from my Josephine story, she had gone to Ohio to work in that company for during World War II before she even came to work at the State Department. But those were mediocre jobs then. But back in the day, it was a stable job because you was working for the government.
Right.
And they gave you benefits. You had benefits. You had a career with benefits. But I mean, you may not have gotten paid the best, but you had a retirement system and all that stuff built in, so you could, if you really wanted to, you could work your way up. You know, do the job and keep working your way up. But I can't. I don't know. I guess you have to ask one of the other brothers how they.
How they.
I don't know because most Aunt Pauline went to New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
That's where she went, but then Aunt Esmond went to. She was the only one here in Virginia. Her and Aunt Delphi was the only ones here in Virginia. I don't know what inspired them to go to the cap, to DC.
And I wonder if it was customary at that time that, there weren't as many opportunities or different opportunities going to DC, going to New Jersey, where they just felt like, I need to, I need to make it. Or maybe it was a family member who enticed them and said, hey, I think you should do da da da
Yeah,
da da.
but that's what happened back in the South then. Most of them, one would move and then the other one would follow.
Mm,
Very seldom they stayed in there, where they grew up. Almost everybody probably in this community had moved. They didn't work here. Few of them did. Uncle June and Uncle Holiday, they may have worked here.
right.
But everybody else, you know, they went away.
I guess you had to, would you say?
Yeah, you probably had to, because Uncle William stayed and Uncle Samuel stayed. And Uncle Samuel used to work for the county,
Mm-hmm.
Rico County. And Uncle William, he used to work for a furniture company before he started working at Philip Morris.
Right.
So, you if you really wanted to get somewhere, you would have to leave.
Huh.
Because there wasn't much here to do, not in New Kent at
Yeah, I
all.
guess you plant some corn or yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I
you
don't
could
know.
always raise a farm, raise a garden and take it to the market because we had a market they used to go to. Yeah, you could do that. And what were you gonna do in the wintertime?
Hmm. I know. Well, then that makes me question your parents stayed. What did they do? I mean, what made them stay in New Kent?
Well, I think Daddy stayed because of Grandma.
Right.
Grandma was, his mom. So I think that's probably why he stayed. And then after he had that accident with his hand, you know, he was working for a farmer here in the county, the Gregory.
Mm-hmm.
Mama used to do day work for her, for the family, but and they basically took care of them by they shared their crop, they shared their livestock. When they killed meat, beef or whatever, we got some of that. And of course, I know you know about the goose hunting and the duck hunting. She used
Yeah.
to tell that.
Yeah.
And she would clean those and the deer. They always shared their food with us. And when mom was working for them, they would if she was canning, she'd give them tomatoes to can, like because they had a garden also, and they would can together. Her and Miss
Hmm.
Gregory would can together. But I think Daddy basically stayed because of grandmother. Because grandma if he had gone away, I don't know. I don't know what would happen.
Yeah, that's because your grandmother was she living by herself at the time, or because you said on Pauline went to New Jersey, or what was that living situation?
I think she was living basically by herself, and Aunt Delphi had moved in for a while. And when I was growing up, Aunt Delphi was there most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, but she would go away every winter to stay with Aunt Anna and before Aunt Delphi moved in to stay with Aunt Anna and Aunt Josephine, and she would stay the whole winter
Oh, okay.
with them. That's what I remember growing up
And they were, where was she staying when she would stay with them?
in D.C. They were in Washington.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. I thought so, but I wanted to confirm.
But
That's
then when she started
interesting.
staying here, Hilda would stay with her. Hilda stayed with her for years and went to school from over there.
You mean like high school or
Yeah,
college?
high school. She went to high school basically over at grandma. She was over there.
Oh,
Yeah,
hmm.
and she stopped moving back and forth to in the wintertime, in the summer, she would come back and stay and then go away again in the winter.
Hmm. That made me think about another important question. This ain't on my list, but I'm just thinking about the number of people at your who stayed with your grandmother who cycle back, on Delphi, and everybody may stay there or leave or da 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 da. Da.
Right.
How important is it to maintain a family home, would you say, like a central ground, a place for people to come back to?
I think that was very important back there, and when I was growing up,
Mm-hmm.
have somewhere for family to come back to. Not just for visiting, but if somebody got on hard times, because Uncle William came back for a while until he got himself together, and he was working with his family, and he left and moved back to Richmond, and Aunt Delphi was there, and I don't know anybody else, any of the other ones that I know of. They just came to visit, but when they retired, they came back. Aunt Pauline, Aunt Anna, they came back when they retired. But Aunt Josephine, of course, built her own house when she retired.
Right,
The
right.
first that had done that. And Uncle Samuel, he was living with, I guess before he built his house up here, he was living with Martha's family. It's not too far away from here. But I
Hmm.
think, back then that's basically, they wanted to have a home so their family can come back to.
Right, right.
Something that they could call it on. I mean, some people do it now, but I don't think that's the thought pattern of a lot of people now.
What do you think is the
After they,
thought pattern
after
of
they,
people?
after they,
You said after they what? I think you froze a little bit. Um, can you hear me?
you know, his houses were not like the other sibling houses. he had to um, he had the way he was brought up. They didn't have well, he basically built that house himself. After the accident, he took those funds and built the house. He put out the sheetrock in that house, and got somebody to help him, just do things that needed to be done in the house.
Hmm.
But it was our house. It was home. There was a lot of love coming out of that. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, I lost you for a little bit earlier. What were you saying about what people's idea is currently about building a home? Like, what do you feel like their motivation is now?
Well, their original motivation probably is to raise the family.
Mm-hmm.
But after the kids get up and go, oh, we don't need this big house anymore. We're going to either downsize or go back, sell it, and build something else or move. And I think about a lot of people my age now still moving. I'm like, no way could I. And they building bigger houses. And I'm for what?
Yeah,
For
I
what?
don't, yeah.
I mean, to each his own, but I don't see that. I don't see moving again. Not unless I have to.
Right, right.
If I have to, then yeah. But nah, I don't see moving again.
Makes sense. Makes perfect sense to me because it's important to have a home base, especially when you think about family. Just, and I'm not just talking about the single family unit. I'm talking about like the whole family. Where do people come back to? Like,
Well,
we're talking about our family reunion right here. What if there was nobody there? Well, where would we go? I mean, I'm
I
just,
don't know where we would celebrate family reunion. I mean, where it got to have a core. Where did it start? So,
yeah.
especially if we got rid of Grandma Law's house, nobody would know that was there. Nobody was here. You come back and talk about it and celebrate here in the county, but really want to connect, have
Mhm.
those connections.
Yeah, that
And
is.
I just think those people did really great, remarkable. I'm like, you know, and I tell people we can do a lot more than we do because of what I know about history and the history of people. There's a woman with 13 children. She took them, after her husband died. She didn't have a car. She didn't, but her goal was to take care of her children.
Mm-hmm.
God blessed her to do it. And they weren't out in the street. You didn't read about them in the paper, you know, doing crazy things. So I think it's so much more that we could do. And it didn't require a whole lot to do it, because sometimes people think now, oh, I can't do so and so because I need money. Do what
Because
you
they
can
need
do.
what?
Money.
No,
If
you really don't. You need
yeah,
motivation. I mean, figure out a way to get it done.
yeah, just do it. Just go try to do it and see what happens. Because those people back there didn't have money. How do you think we still here? If they had given up like some people now, give
Mm-hmm.
up, then we can't do something. Where would we be?
Tis true, tis true. I mean, it's not money that makes the world go around. It's people because even if today I didn't have anything to eat, I could go ask somebody. I
Yeah,
could find something, be like, who got a watermelon? Who got a this? And it wasn't requiring me money. That actually happened. A similar thing, when we had the snowstorm back in February, I couldn't
mhm,
go out and get any food, but I had like an emergency food stock, but I wanted some different things. So I saw my neighbor outside one day and I noticed he was going to work in his truck. I said, "What time you gonna be back?" I gave him a couple of dollars and made a little list. I said, "I need some chips, peanut butter, this." He bought it back and he didn't even spend the money. He spent his own money. So
Wow.
all you got to do is ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, you make it happen. Okay, my next question, what did you do for a living?
Wow. Where you want me to start? Originally, my first job was babysitting. Then I worked for a telephone company for about 3 months
Mhm.
during the summer. And after I moved back here from Norfolk, I worked at the bank. I stayed at the bank for 10 years. Started out as an on-call teller, which meant that I only worked when they needed somebody.
Right.
And and um, you could apply to positions. And I guess after a year, I did apply in 1991, and I stayed there. Not 1991. It was in the 80s, 85 maybe. And I applied and stayed there. Then I did part time at Captain D's, and that's where I ended up at. Because my motivation there was to really coming out of high school. I say I need to do a little bit more so everybody else have the opportunity to go to college.
Mhm.
So I said, figured that that would help. Because I was working part time at Captain D's in the evening and at the bank in the daytime. And one of in fact, the district manager saw me and invited me to come down to apply for a job at Captain D's. And I went down and did that. And then I switched over to being a manager um, and left the bank. The bank was very interesting. That was my dream job. I enjoyed that. That was good. But the funds weren't there. But I enjoyed
You
that
mean it at the bank?
at the bank. That
You would
wasn't.
think the money at the bank.
Yeah,
Be
the money
like,
was
I'm
there. I
working
was
at
counting a
the
lot of money. I just didn't see it in my pocket.
bank. Right.
Yeah, but it was that was a job to have to maintain. If you could have, if I could have, and they had a decent retirement plan.
Right.
You know, so that was good. All those things were good. But I need a little bit more than that to take care of you also. I went over to being a manager, and I ended up being um, a general manager at Captain D's, and that's where I spent most of my time in the food service industry. Most of it was spent there, and it was so easy. I mean, this when I first went over there, I'm like, am I gonna like this? Because it didn't cause me to think.
Yeah.
It didn't, but I did what I had to do for the sake of somebody else. But it wasn't a thought process at all. It was too easy,
Mm-hmm.
too easy. I mean, I already knew how to cook. I knew how to clean up.
So it's like y'all
And
ain't
I
teaching
mean,
me
the,
nothing.
the major part was managing employees.
Yeah.
That was the major part. Wasn't anything else to think about. It was too easy. It was really too easy. And it took me a while to get adjusted to from coming from the bank because the environment at the bank was more structured and it wasn't all over the place. So you had rules to follow and it was the employees were different. But in the fast food industry, the employees are like a swinging door, in and out, in and
Back and
out. And I
forth.
mean the
Yeah.
same ones, in and out, in and out. And you gotta at some point you gotta say, be compassionate about, am I going to let them come back, or I'm just gonna say, you don't need to go, you need to be here. I gotta let you go. but I just wasn't used to that when I got there. Because they'll quit on you today, call you up. Can I come back to work? Can you put me back on the schedule? I'm like, are you serious?
Where you been?
And but you in the banking industry, you didn't have that.
Right.
If you weren't left, hey, they weren't hiring you. Yeah, but it was. But fast food was my. That's where I ended up my 27 years at fast food.
How did you, I know you mentioned it was challenging getting adjusted to the fast food industry because it just seems so simplistic. How did you end up staying so many years?
Well, I set goals. When I set goals for myself, then I started reaching those goals. Then because when I first went there, um, they wanted me. I was the assistant manager,
Mm-hmm.
and I told my district manager that I wanted to be a GM, be a general manager of the store. And they kept telling me, you're not ready for this. You're not ready. You can't do it. You can't handle it. I couldn't handle it. They thought I was too passive. I got let employees get away with too much. But you had to show your employees that not that you letting them get away, but you trust them to do certain things, and they should do this because it's necessary. And you got to win their confidence in you
Mm.
for them to respect you. And so I just used that to get to where I was. And when he gave me um, their busiest store as general manager, I set goals there that I was going because there was so many things that I saw that we could be doing that I'm like, it's not going to be that way under me. Your employees going to be in uniform. Your employees going the store is going to be cleaner than it had been. Those type of things. I set goals, and that's what kept me motivated. I had to stay motivated. And when I lost that motivation, then and I saw that they weren't going to do anything else, I said it's time to go. It's time to time to get out of here. You know. But after everybody had gone to school and I was working 55 hours for myself then. After you all gone to college, you know. So I'm like, why am I killing myself?
I know that's
Go
right.
home and rest. You know, do something different. But the motivation was, what I had to do to take care of you all and to build a house, have a house being built. That was my motivation. Even though the job was very sim- simple, it was very simple. It was very, very simple to me.
What would you tell somebody, maybe another mother or father right now who's in a similar position that you were and they're like, I don't want to work this job. I want to quit. But I know I got these kids. What would you tell them what based on your life experience?
Well, I basically would tell them not to look at the position,
Mhm.
what they were doing. They're not doing it for their self
Right.
gratification. It's for the sake of your children. If you want to survive and your children to survive, you want to keep a roof over their head, you want to keep clothes on their back, keep doing it. Because you could cut the job off at when you went home. Leave that stuff in the building and go home and be with your children. And it won't last forever. It's not
Right.
gonna last forever. That's anything you're into. It's not gonna last forever. You know, it's gonna get better. And I try to tell several people that, but some people can't see no farther than like the older people who say the end of their nose. You know, they 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 don't live with hope. I live with hope of it getting better the next day. Even though it may not, okay, it didn't happen today. Maybe it'll happen tomorrow.
Mhm.
I live with hope. That's how I live with hope. And it's going to change and it's going to be better. And one thing, by having the grace of God with me and knowing that there is a God I know he's taking care of me and my family. Um, I can just, that's why I say, minimum wage is not great, but some money is better than no money, as long as you spend it properly. Do the best with what you have, and then maybe something will come along, and then maybe somebody going to see what you're doing, and then somebody might give you a chance to do something better. Somebody might walk in that job and say, "Hey, oh, I see you are very good at this. Will you come down to my office today and maybe we can talk and I can get you to do something else?" You might be able to go and do something else. But if you're gonna go in there and think the job crappy and work crappy, you gonna stay at the crappy job.
Yeah.
You
Because,
can
like you
stay
said, that could be your stepping stone to a greater position because you don't know who walking up in, let's say it's the restaurant example, like you said, Captain D's, McDonald's, Wendy's, wherever. You don't know who walking up in there.
there. Mm-mm. You don't have a clue. You don't have a clue. Sometimes when I talk to the guests, I didn't know that some of the guests, you know, work where they did or did the things that they did. And they came in there every day. But I didn't know, until you open up a conversation. That's why I think we as Americans need to open up a conversation with each other. We make too many assumptions. We stand back and make assumptions of what's going on. Or they doing so and so. You don't know, you know. Like the kids out here, you don't know their home situation. But you say that, hey, he didn't do so and so, or she didn't do so and so. Maybe you need to get to know the child.
Yeah.
Maybe see why the child is doing what they're doing. But if you know what they're doing, know how what they're doing bad, that hey, you got a right to talk, make some changes. But for because I'm working with the little children now, you would think that they wouldn't have any problem because everybody has everything. But you don't know what's going on behind them doors.
Mm-hmm. Tis true, tis true. What would you say is, in life, and that could be on the job, it could be being a mother. What's the greatest lesson you've learned in life?
My greatest lesson throughout my life is, I guess, the one that my mom always said, whenever there's a will, there's a way. Because even
Mm-hmm.
in my childhood growing up, I've done some things that I didn't think that I would be able to do. I was an honest student, because people would say, coming out of poor family, your mother and father worked wherever they worked, you weren't going to be so and so or whatever. And then to be able to homeschool, when I homeschool with their, I don't have any of the tools that these people are using now to homeschool. I mean, I use cardboard boxes, paper bags. I did have pencils and crayons and old books. I use my old college English book, and I wish I could find that book, but I don't know where it is. But I made flashcards out of cereal boxes. To put the timetables on and the sight. They call them sight words, but I won't call them sight words. Then if you didn't know how to spell a word, I put the word on the flashcard and on the cereal box, and we spelled the word. And then I took words and broke them down, made you all to see how many words you could get out of one word.
Hmm.
Those type of things, you know. And that, I feel that that was an accomplishment, because if somebody look at me and say, "You homeschool," and I say, "Yeah," they probably wouldn't believe it. They wouldn't believe it. But
Because the thing is, like you mentioned, you weren't following a curriculum. You were following what was kind of poured into you. It
right,
was okay, I think this would be a great lesson. Let me teach this lesson. There was no book manual saying grade one, do
Nope,
this.
nope. And
That's
I
a
can't
lesson.
draw, but most of y'all can draw. And I guess that was a acquired talent. Well, you got that talent from your dad, so you know, looking at pictures and drawing pictures. But I didn't draw anything. I couldn't draw anything. I knew a little. I knew math and English, and I could read. But my greatest accomplishment is that I feel, and a lot of things that we think we can't do, we can do if we get out and try to do it. And I find that to be true throughout, not just at homeschool, but throughout my life. You know,
Mm-hmm.
don't put limitations on yourself. You know, you can do things. There's certain things you may not be able to do it the way everybody else is doing it, but the job can be done. It can be done. And I think my family instilled that in us because if they hadn't told us we're good, we could do this, don't, and encouraged us, our aunts and uncles encouraged us to do, and our grandparents encouraged us to do, with that encouragement, you know that somebody's behind you. Even if I fail, somebody is still there saying, okay, let's try something else. If this didn't work, we're going to try something else. But you got to have the willpower to want to do something. And our family, I think, go way back of encouraging one another. And um, not just the family, but they encourage other people. They encourage other people that they came in contact with. And our aunts and uncles wanted the nieces and nephews to do better than they did. And then when they did things, they encouraged them by congratulating them, letting them know how proud they were of what they were doing, and they kept up with us. Our aunts and uncles they knew all of us. That's not just from the family reunion, but just they knew who we were and what we were doing. And they kept up with us. And that's the way people ought to be.
I like that. I like it. Yeah, you gotta, if you don't try, how do you know what's capable? You gotta, you,
Yeah, and that was Daddy's phrase. Nothing beat a failure but a try. And I'm like, why did he say that? And that made sense. You already failed. If you didn't try, you failed already.
mm-hmm.
So beat the failure. Try it.
Yeah, that's, I mean, why do you think some people don't even want to try?
Well, they fear that they, with social media now and with other people, they may have friends that tell them you can't do certain things. And, that just destroying their willpower.
Hmm.
But I have always thought, and I learned this from being in Norfolk, um, being born in God's image, I have everything I need. If I'm in His image and He can do everything, I got everything I need. But I mean, I use it all at the same time, but it's there for me to pull upon. I might have to go do a little research, but if I'm born in His image, I got everything I need.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't believe that they can do certain things because I don't know. They may fear that they may fail or somebody may talk about them or whatever. But it, and I think that's the main reason is social media and being talked about or bullied or whatever. You can't do so and so. People telling you can't do so and so they just don't try. Or they will say so and so had never done so and so. Hey, why not be the first one to do it? Why not be the first one to do it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then if you fail, it's okay. But at least you learned, you learned a lesson and you stepped out there and you just
Yeah, you did learn a lesson. Yeah, you stayed at, and you wanted to, but you got one thing I think people need, they have to have the desire to do certain things. If they don't have the desire, they're not even gonna try. They'll take the easy way out. That's might be why so many of our young people don't do certain things because they take the easy way out. It's
mm,
easier not to do than to get out and do to them. But once you get out there and start doing, you say, "Oh man, I can do this." It'll give you, to me, it'll give me a good feeling of I can do this. You know. But some people just say, "No, I don't want to do that. I can't do that." And don't try doing it.
yeah, you gotta attempt at least. And then because if you don't, how do you even know what your limitations are,
Mm,
like even just take it back to your teacher always calling you to the board to do to do the math problem, the geometry. If you didn't, if that teacher wouldn't have pressed you, you may not have learned a new skill.
right. I don't know why
Whereas,
she did that. Still don't know why she did that.
hmm, I guess she wanted you. She was like, here come this girl. I knew Jimmy, James, John, and all them. Where she come from? She just I've got to whip her into shape. She got to be like them.
Mm,
I know your brothers. I know who they was. I had them too. I'm gonna make you. Robert did it. I'm gonna make you do it too.
mm.
That's what I guess. That's what she was thinking. She
Maybe
was.
so. I don't know what she was doing.
She was. She Oh, I got something. This is interesting. I forgot I have this shirt on. You'll have to tell me what this means to you because it relates to what you just said. The application of knowledge is power. What does that mean? The application of knowledge is power.
Wow. It is power. I just feel education is power. Knowledge is power anyway,
Mm-hmm.
because that's something no one can take away from you. Once you learn something, I don't care who come along. The only way you is taken away is you forget it, or
Yeah.
you don't literally use it, and then it's still not taken away if you don't use it. It's still there. So I always think knowledge is power because you can think around some of this craziness around that's going on out here now. If you're knowledgeable, if you don't learn how to think and know what the truth is, you'll fall for anything. So you don't have the knowledge of anything that's going on around you. So you have to apply it, to get the power.
Mm-hmm. So that brings another question because I'm thinking about because you mentioned social media and we know what we just went through this past year with the pandemic. We had George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, we had Trump, we just had a horrendous year. I'm not saying it was that way for me, but when you look at the grand scheme of thing, a lot of people did not have a fantastic year. And sometimes as Black people, we feel powerless. Is it because we aren't applying our knowledge or what's going on? Why do we feel power? Or is it the system or what's going on, especially now in 2021? Where do we need to go as a Black population? Or are we there where we need to be?
excuse me, I don't think we're where we need to be, but I don't think
Mm.
we're, and some of us think we're powerless because we're not able to change certain things on the great, you know, scheme of things. But change things in your neighborhood. Change things where you are. Get people to think differently, where you are. And
Mm-hmm.
you look at, and the media wants you, I feel, bickering about that big picture. But if you work in your neighborhood with your people, with our people, and do good things, you're not going to hear about that on the media. Not in America.
Right.
You make your changes in your community, and hopefully they will go out and make changes when they get out in the world. But if you take that whole picture in, it can be very discouraging. It can be very, very discouraging because when Trump was in there and all that those things was going on, yeah, it was discouraging to turn the news on. That's all you hear about. But people in your community were doing other things. They
True.
were doing good things. You have people going to college, people doing still working in their community, doing excellent things, outstanding things. But that was the media had pushed, and they had pushed it so bad that they were saying that we were, I guess, just awful. We were just with his rhetoric, we were just terrible. But that's once again, that's where that conversation needs to be brought up. And if they start talking in Congress and talking on the media, on TV, communicating with people, they had everybody, literally black and white against everybody. But we had black friends, we had white friends, we had that were doing things for each other. And during the pandemic, we were doing things for each other.
Yeah.
But if you listen to the news, nobody was doing anything good. It was just a terrible. It was a terrible time for some people, and it still is for some people because I can't understand. I can't get past Black Lives Matter and we killing so many people in our neighborhood. I can't get past that. I just cannot get past. So if it matter when the Caucasian has the gun, why doesn't it matter when the black person has a gun? When you killing your brother and your sister, it need to matter then too. But it's a whole lot. But I guess as long as this country is going to be the way that it is, because I listened to that general the other day about systematic racism being taught. Seriously, it's there. You just look at it. Tell the people the truth. You don't want the truth taught. The truth is it's systematic. I mean, you got almost everything is stacked against us.
Mm-hmm. Did you hear about the lady? Well, I could use Wilhelmina and Jamaica as an example for this in terms of housing and how it's systematic racism in that industry. But there's a lady was listening to a story the other week. Her house got appraised for like 195,000 or something like that because she was black, but she sent her white friend in to get pretend that that was their house. It appraised for like 300,000,
I
so
believe
like
it.
100,000 more. I was
I
like,
believe it.
oh
I
yeah, so
believe
this happens every day,
every day in every situation. I believe it. I believe it. And people
and
say
it's
that,
the same house.
yeah, and they say that nothing is happening. They don't see it. They don't see it. They don't want to see it. It's been happening to us all our lives. Everything that we have gotten into, we had to try hard.
Mm-hmm.
You go to school, you get a degree, you come out with your degree, good grades, but you when you get in, find your career, you have to try hard. And it's just basically because they look at your skin color. It's not your work ethic, it's just your skin color. And it's happening over and over. But I think it's going the more browner this country get, they gonna find out because Hilda used to say those little children from these integrated mother and father, they gonna say, stop talking about my mama, stop talking about my dad. You know, it ain't like that. And and then some doors gonna open up and some things gonna change. But it shouldn't be that way. I mean, why you think they came up with a credit score? What is a credit score? I told Wilhelmina about the student loan. When Kenneth was going to school, and he used to say it all the time that they had grants and he got some
Yeah.
grants. But when the student loans came along, those Caucasians that were getting student loans were buying cars, buying houses, and won't paying the money back. Well, some little person got in there and said, now student loans need to be paid back.
See, this is the thing. I'm against that. Like, I'm that's wild.
You're gonna send me to school and then you're gonna send me out in debt. So what so why
But
does it cost so much to go to school anyway?
yeah, it's the setup because now you got, well, they literally just in the past couple of weeks, they made some new provisions about, because there used to be a whole lot of people not able to get a mortgage because of their student loans. But
Right.
like you said, it's the setup because
Yeah.
it's like you gave the people the student loans. Now they can't buy a home for their family or they can't do this because they're over here 70,000, 80,000, 90,000, $120,000 in debt. Whereas, and I didn't know this until you mentioned it, they didn't require you to pay them back before. What?
No, it won't like it was another system. I don't know if they call it student loan, but people were going on, not unless it was a forgiveness thing, but most of everything was grants. You could
Yeah.
get a lot of grants. You could get a lot of grants, an awful lot of grants for education. But once we start going to school and taking advantage of those things, some little smarty had to say, "Well, we need to change it because they moving up too much. They moving." But hey, we all moving. So what's wrong with that? And even like the civil rights, women didn't have rights.
Mm-hmm.
That's when the American woman got rights during the civil rights movement. So that's why the the older men now, they really don't want a woman in power.
Hmm.
They ain't gonna vote for no woman. That's why Hillary didn't win. Ain't nobody gonna vote for Hillary, no woman. She almost on the same class as we are. Women are almost on the same class as African Americans, but nobody's talking about that.
Yeah.
I mean, but in male household, in Caucasian household, they don't let no woman be in charge, and they don't want no woman in charge of them in
Hmm.
their job. They'll give you a little bit of power, but they're not gonna give you all of it. And if they think they're in power, nah, they're not. But systematic racism, I think it's the culture of this country, and it's being taught. Because why would these little children that we taking care of now know about it if it's not being taught? Somebody teaching them.
Yeah.
Somebody is teaching them. And I just feel that after integration it should have phased out. But what we're teaching in our household, are not what they teaching in their household. We're teaching, most of us are teaching trying to get along with each other and how we need to protect ourselves to get along. But they're teaching that we're not this and we're not that and we're not this. No, and most of those children are finding out once they get out into the workplace and they have to deal with us, it's not what was taught in my household. And I mean, and that was happening when I was finding jobs.
Right, right.
Even at the bank when I first had my job at the bank. When I first went over to the bank that I had a full-time position with, nobody wanted to talk to me. The customers didn't
Really?
want to deal with me because I was
Yeah,
the
this
only
was in
African
that
American
was
in
in
the
the
building.
80s.
Huh?
I said that was in the 80s.
Yeah, and I was the only African American. I had people that would refuse to come and allow me to wait on them.
The
They would
custom?
stand
You
in
mean
line and
the
somebody else,
customers?
they said, "Oh, you can go," until they got to the teller that they wanted to get to.
Hmm.
And I had sat in that office a long time, and people didn't even. The only thing they said to me was "Good morning." But once they found out I knew what everybody else knew, I wasn't stupid. I am. I'm back here handling money, but you over here afraid that I'm gonna steal your money.
Yeah, I'm over here helping you out. I'm trying to make
And
sure
I'm
your
coming to work
accounts are
every day.
straight.
And I'm coming to work every day. But you afraid to take your I don't know. It could have been that they didn't want me to see how much money they had. Because when you make deposits, their balances will come up. But that I
I
wasn't even
don't
thinking
care
about
what
that
I'm gonna
stuff.
do
I
with
wasn't
it.
even thinking about it. I was working. I didn't
Right.
care. And I told somebody just the other day, America think that the majority of the people making the most money are the people walking around in suits. The people making the money, but whether they doing the right thing with it are the people wearing uniforms. Your
Hmm.
garbage collectors, your factory workers, they're making more than them guys that coming in that bank with them three-piece suits on. And some of the guys are working in the bank.
I believe it.
And I'm like, are you serious? And you gonna snub your nose up at me? I'm what keeping your country going.
Tis true, tis true. Yeah, people don't, I mean, that's what you do when you make prejudices and discriminate, and because you don't even know what the truth is. So you making a judgment based off of your thoughts, what you think is going on.
Right, right. And then the most of them, I would say, a lot of things that they back in the '80s was what they saw on TV, how we would depict on TV. But like I may have told you, they use percentages. So if you're using percentages in the media, give me the true figure. Give me the right figure. It's less of us. So you using percentages and more y'all. It's still more y'all
Yeah.
doing some of these things you say we doing. But you want us to believe, okay, it's 10% or 50% of y'all doing so and so. But your 50 might be 25. My 50 of African American might be 25 of your race.
Mm-hmm.
But you're looking at percentages. But they don't want us to think like that. We're not supposed to think like that. But, I guess the reason we think like that and because of who we are, they can't do anything with us and they constantly trying to discredit us, but that's not happening either. So they need to
We're
give
like
up.
roaches. We're not gonna die. Like
They need to give up. They need to give up. Get a life. Because it's not happening.
yeah, it's as you said, it is systemic. It's built into the system. Everything is built into education, it's built into transportation, it's built into
Yeah,
housing, it's built
right.
into
It's built into everything.
rental. I mean, it's just every facet. It's when people say, oh, Black people don't know about finances or don't understand. That's not true. It's that there's been measures put, as you mentioned, credit scores and um, student loans. There's been blocks put into place as preventions,
Hmm.
as as things, boulders to stand in your way that's not put in anybody else's way.
Well, one thing I wish they would do is take the rates off of applications, all applications.
Hmm.
Why is that necessary? And then tell you
Somebody said the other
you can
day
answer it if
there
you
for
want
the
to.
EEOC, so they can make sure. I don't know.
It's not making sure. It's not working. It's not working. You need to find another way. Because when I was growing up, and I don't know what they're doing now, our social security numbers start with two. Theirs start with other numbers.
You're saying,
African Americans.
hmm,
I don't know
I
what they're doing now.
I believe it. So what I'm curious what, like Kennedy and Khalil, what is their social security, because they're a younger
I
generation,
think
or like
theirs is
Cyrus and Pharrell.
six and something, and I'm wondering what that means.
Theirs start with what?
Six?
All of them? All four of them?
I don't know what all four of them are. I don't know what Cyrus and them are, but I know Kennedy's start. I think hers start with a six.
Hmm.
Well, that stuff they done put in. So
Oh
when
yeah,
the
so you
person
can
see that application,
identify.
they already that's something in the back office that we're not taught.
Yeah, so it's like, so why you need the race on the application if I already know? Oh, Elmira, what's your social? Oh,
Yeah,
okay, I got you.
yeah, they already know.
I know who you are. I don't even need to know anything. I don't need to know anything else. But that's interesting. I didn't know that about I knew there was a certain start of the social security number according to geographic location, but I didn't know according to race.
Yeah, it was race too. Now who
Hmm.
did that? Who did that? It won't us.
Yeah, I ain't assigned nobody no numbers. I ain't give them.
But we don't supposed to have knowledge of that. Those are things we don't supposed to have knowledge of. So when
Yeah,
you look
so
at my
when you
application,
start,
you already know, what I am, and that's why I say with the credit score. If I put in my social, my credit
it's
score
gonna,
never be a 800. They might give me a 750, but am I gonna make the 800?
hmm, yeah, that's a great question.
But the thing about it is systematic racism. They need to just teach the truth. Teach the truth and let people let it fall where it may. You go wherever way you want to go. The truth has been taught to you. But if you don't teach the truth,
Is that what they're saying? Because I haven't kept up with everything. Is That's what's being argued in education? They don't want to teach the truth?
well, they don't. Certain parts they've taken out of it, so they don't want to teach. Like the governor doesn't. What is the governor of Texas?
Mm-hmm.
He wants them to celebrate Juneteenth, but he don't want to put it in the education system. Don't put
What?
it in the classroom.
Well, that doesn't make sense.
I
Because
mean, for me,
what are you
what you supposed to
acknowledging?
do with it? What you supposed to do with it? Let people believe what they want to believe about it, right?
Hmm. You have to educate, and you have to, and part of that education is because, like you said, Texas is where where Juneteenth originates, Galveston, and
But
you
how
can
did they
give
keep it? How did they keep it undercover so long? People were born in
it
Galveston and didn't
cover.
know it. How did they keep it undercover so long?
I don't think it was undercover.
Well, I've heard people say on the news now that they didn't know anything. Well, maybe they knew about it, but they say it wasn't taught to them.
Who's saying it wasn't taught?
Um, African Americans down there in Texas, they never heard that.
Oh,
They never heard about being taught.
well, I I can't say what they were taught and weren't. I because it could depend on what city they were in or time period they grew up. Who knows? I I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know. But I mean, it's you still gotta. To me, history is important, and that's part of this interview right here. You have to know your history, your personal history, family history. You got to know the history of the country. You got to know the history of your people. Just, I mean, even dating back thousands of years, just so you know where you originate from. It gives you a better understanding of where you are today. How did we get here? Where does all this stuff come from? And if you don't understand that, where are you going? You gotta you got to have a picture of it. Well, I do have one final question. How do you wish to be remembered? Is there a certain quote, how you impacted people, or
I really don't know. I really don't. I really don't know. I hadn't. I've never given that a thought.
yeah.
I really hadn't given that a thought.
Well, it's up to the thing about this question is it's up to the people to remember you. So maybe it's not important for you because the other people gonna be the one remembering.
Yeah, yeah, but I don't know how I want to be remembered.
Yeah.
I guess I want to be remembered as somebody caring, knowledgeable, and caring.
Hmm.
I don't know. I never thought about how I want to be remembered.
Well, that
And I'm
sounds
not because I'm really not trying to be the best at this or the best at that
right.
or that type thing. I just want to be it'd be nice to be remembered. And I'm sure some people had some pleasant memories of me, and some may have some awkward, unpleasant memories.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I don't know. I really don't.
Well, I think you answered it well. Any final thoughts before we close?
No, but people just need. My thought is people just need to know that they can do things regardless of what other people may tell them that they can't do. Being born in God's image, you can. There's a lot that we can do, and
Mm,
there's a lot that we can do as a people. And like Aunt Josephine said, don't worry about them bobbleheads, on the TV or in media or whatever. Work in your neighborhood. Do some good things in your neighborhood, you know, to make changes. You can't. We all can't conquer the world.
mhm.
Do a little bit here and a little bit there, and it all will add up. Because, if you read the Bible, they were fighting back then too. They, was, they had walls and numerous of walls, and people didn't believe in this person or didn't they want to get at that person or whatever. If you looked at it all, but God was the rule of it all. He knew everything, but we as people need to, if we can, stay in our neighborhood and help those in our neighborhood. Because I think about just in this Tunstall's area, how people years ago just used to help each other. And it didn't matter where you lived, didn't matter whether you went to church or your job or whatever. You needed something, they were gonna help you, and that's the way we need to be. And it life can get you down with all that craziness if you look at it. But I just wish somebody would come along now and help our black men and ladies in the educational system and in their personal lives. There's just too much going on. I see it as overwhelming. And some of them may feel that it's overwhelming, that they may have to take a life or do whatever to make themselves feel better or whatever, or get out of a situation. But your situations don't last all the time. Like I said, they don't last forever. And we all have had situations. But I think a lot about how did the slaves go through their situation so we could be here? They weren't good from what I'm told.
Mhm.
They may have some happy times, but the majority of the time being whipped every day or whatever, or cussed at or spit on or whatever. And we can't go through what we go through sometimes. We have to pick up a gun or shoot somebody. Nah, I guess if we lived back then, we wouldn't have survived. The Caucasians didn't have to worry about us. We'd be gone. They're gone anyway, so we got the country to ourselves because they weren't survivors. We need to be survivors and live like survivors and act like survivors.
Yeah, you gotta be a survivor. you gotta you gotta act like it.
And sometimes you just act like whether you want or not. Just act like a survivor. Okay, I can do this. Don't have a clue how I gonna get done, but I can do it.
Mhm.
Just act it, and it scares them. It frightens them when we act with that way. But we could go on and on.
Yes, well, this was a fantastic time. A lot of words of wisdom shared. I'm sure everybody out there, y'all grabbed some nuggets, some history, some lessons, all of that. We're going to close. I'm going to stop recording and I'll have you stick around.
Okay.
Okay, bye, everybody.
Bye.